Welcome to the Hustle Culture Podcast. My name's Sloan, and let's dive in.
What is up, guys? Today is episode 9 of the Hustle Culture Podcast, and today has been a day. It is 12:15 a.m., and I have already dealt with multiple major incidents, and I decided I think you should do a podcast on what to do when you screw up and how to screw up gracefully. That's definitely a skill I've had to master, how to screw up and acknowledge when you went wrong and not lose the client, or if you do lose the client, prevent a bad review. So, How to Screw Up Gracefully by Sloan Cordish. Title of my next book. TM. So lovely. My day started out with a client complaint. Dealt with it. I've been dealing with a lot of client complaints. Not anything that isn't in proportion to how many clients we have. Like, we've gotten more clients, so it's kind of natural we'd have more issues pop up and everything. So I've definitely had to hone my skills on how to deal with it and everything. One major thing that I've tried to get in the habit of, I don't like conflict. I get very nervous. I feel like someone's going to yell at me. I've never had anyone yell at me yet, but that's apparently one of my biggest fears, is a client just screaming at me and telling me everything I did wrong. Most people don't like to complain. I know myself, I hate complaining, so I kind of try and put myself in shoes where if I have something wrong, I'm very kind and very respectful. I understand life happens, and not everyone's going to be perfect all the time, so I try and hope other people will have the grace that I try and give to other people. One thing that I think definitely helps when you screw up is to address it via phone call. It's always a lot better. A lot of our stuff is handled via text message just because everyone's busy. We deal with parents, and parents of children are very busy all the time, and I'm very busy, so it's not always feasible to deal with everything via phone call. However, if a major issue does pop up, I do try and take the time out of my day just to acknowledge that the person's complaint is valid and important, and address it via phone call. A lot of stuff can be confused via text messages, and you can't tell the person's exact stance on something via text message. I know that has definitely happened where I think the person's like really, really, really mad and they're not. So that's kind of reassuring. As intimidating as it may be, just gotta get it done with. Just gotta get it done with. Don't put it off. Just do it and get it done with, versus let it linger and you think about it even more. Just get it done with and deal with it. If they're gonna yell at you, they're gonna yell at you now, or 10 hours from now. You might as well just get it done with. Always be kind. Just acknowledge that the person's feelings are valid. No matter how obnoxious and annoying the complaint may be, they are the one who pay. So acknowledge it. I wouldn't say the customer is always right. However, customer is the one who pays our bills and pays our girls. So I do have to acknowledge the complaint. Obviously, I know if there's a complaint, I will tell someone, hey, I don't think you're right for our service, XYZ. I just don't think we're going to work out, so I will let the client go. I've fired clients before. But 9 times out of 10, you just acknowledge the complaint and see what you can do better. Breathe. It's definitely one for me. I get really wrapped up, and when I'm dealing with that stuff, I get kind of anxious and everything. I know my heart was racing this morning. I always try and make everyone happy. However, I've had to learn not everyone's going to be happy. I was very nervous this morning when I got the phone call and everything. I got the phone call late last night at like 8 o'clock at night, but I didn't hear the voicemail until this morning. And I listened to the voicemail this morning, and I was like, oh, they're probably so upset. No, they were very understanding and very kind about it and everything. Acknowledge shit happens, no matter how many procedures and stuff that you put into place, stuff happens. Just have to acknowledge that, and I try and think and hope that everyone is doing the best they can with what they can. I hope that people don't set out to ruin my day or tick me off, and I do the same, so I try and just think that our employees and our sitters and contractors are doing the best they can, and it's just going to happen. I try and sit down after we get a complaint just to sit back and evaluate what went wrong, what we can do to prevent it. Is it something I need to do? Is it something inevitable that I couldn't have prevented via doing a background check or something like that? Try and evaluate to make sure it doesn't happen again. Life goes on. One thing I try and remember if I'm having a rough day goes back to having the good nighttime routine and everything. Always get to go to bed in my nice, quiet bed, peacefully and everything. life goes on. Life does not stop. Someone out there right now is having the best day of their life, and someone out there is probably having the worst day of their life. So life does not stop, and life does not revolve around your problems. You kind of just have to keep going, figure out what to do. It can be hard. We've had 2 separate issues that I can think of within the past 2 days, and the clients have both been very understanding. They're honestly kind of hesitant about coming to me with complaints and concerns and everything. However, I always tell the clients I'd much rather deal with a problem when it's minuscule and small versus the problem continue and it get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it's a deep, deep problem that then can be irreversible. And it's just way better to approach me with problems where we can kind of adjust X, Y, Z, have someone handle something, and go from there. And so I was very nervous about how our employee would do the next day and everything. And I had a conversation with her. I just wanted to explain to her the situation, that you're kind of riding a fine line here. Like, I understand where the mom is coming from. She's not going to want to have you return if you don't get your act together. And I think the girl really took that, and mom said she turned around 180, which is great. The other situation we had happen, parents were both very, very respectful and everything. A situation popped up. I approached the girl. I asked her side of the story. I knew the parents' side of the story and everything. And in the end, the client decided to no longer work with us. However, I could have been very, very upset and kind of berated the mom and said, oh, well, it wasn't the sitter's fault, like X, Y, Z. How was she supposed to know? Yada, yada, yada. But in the end, they already decided not to work with us. I'm not going to force someone to work with us. I'd much rather leave acquaintances with the sitter and family gracefully than make everyone upset and potentially get a bad review. That's definitely something hard about being a small business, is you rely on reviews, good and bad. If you have a bad review, it can really ruin your company. So you really have to be careful with how you speak to everyone. Definitely something I've had to learn. I can get very frustrated and upset in my head. However, when I speak to someone, it's always with kindness. I always try and make sure to leave on a good note, because the world is very, very small. I come to learn every single day. I'm always running into someone I knew. Occasionally, I have had to run into someone that I didn't exactly leave on the best note with, client. And it can be kind of awkward. However, as the years go on, you kind of forget what the issue was even about. So that helps a tad. But I always try and leave on a good note, because you never know if your name will pop up in conversation and they'll be like, oh yeah, she was terrible to work with, and then you just blew a new client before you even got to meet the client. So always try and leave on a good note. If I can instill anything, it's that. And the customer is not always right, but they want to be right. They don't care about the excuses and anything. If they're coming to you with a complaint, they don't care about your excuses. They just want to feel right, is something I've learned. A lot of clients don't take being told no or that they are wrong very lightly. And they have a lot of power, unfortunately, clients. Lots of power. So you definitely want to leave gracefully and acknowledge that the client is not always right. However, you need to treat them like they are always right, because they pay the bills.
Thank you so much for listening to the Hustle Culture Podcast. If you enjoyed listening, please hop onto Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. If you did not enjoy for whatever reason, let us know what you'd like to see differently. If you'd like to help us grow, follow us on Instagram at Hustle Culture Podcast, or on my personal Instagram at SLOANEKORDISH. I'm so excited to grow with you. See you next Monday. Bye.